Look at the calendar. It is November 2025. Almost a year has passed since the historic victory. The confetti has long been swept away from the convention center floors. The red hats are starting to fade in the sun. You're standing in the checkout aisle of your local grocery store holding a carton of eggs and a gallon of milk. You look at the receipt and you feel a cold, hard knot form in your stomach. The numbers haven't changed. The price is still double what it was 4 years ago. You get back in your car and the gas pump still demands $4 a gallon. You check your banking app and your mortgage rate is still hovering near 8%. The anger that fueled you to vote, the hope that a strong man could snap his fingers and fix the world, it is starting to curdle into something else. It is turning into the bitter realization that you have been played. Welcome to the hangover. The party is over and the headache is just beginning. For millions of Americans, Donald Trump was not just a candidate, he was a symbol of restoration. He was the sledgehammer that was supposed to smash the inflation, smash the woke agenda, and smash the deep state. You thought that by putting your guy back in the White House, the laws of economics would bow down and obey. You thought that a ballot cast in a box could magically erase $35 trillion of national debt. This is the tragedy of political faith. It blinds you to the mathematical reality. Before we dissect why the Trump miracle is mathematically impossible, you need to understand that this message is not political. It is financial. The algorithm is designed to feed you confirmation bias. It wants you to stay in your partisan echo chamber, blaming the other side for your poverty. If you want to see the puppet strings, you need to break out of that box right now. Subscribe to the channel and like this video. Do it to signal that you value truth over ideology. Leave a comment below saying no idols to prove that you are ready to face the harsh reality alone. Now, let us look at the trap that has been set for the 47th president and for you. The problem is not the man in the Oval Office. The problem is the machine he is sitting in. Imagine the US economy as the Titanic. It has already hit the iceberg. The water is pouring into the lower decks, the bond market. The hull, the banking system, is buckled. The previous Captain Biden was asleep at the wheel, mumbling incoherently while the ship drifted. Now, the passengers have revolted. They have thrown the old captain overboard and installed a new, loud, energetic captain who promises to make the Titanic float again. He is shouting orders. He is firing the crew. He is rearranging the deck chairs with aggressive efficiency. But he cannot pump the water out. The hole is too big, and he cannot stop gravity. The debt is the iceberg. $35 trillion. It is a number so large that the human brain cannot comprehend it. Let me put it in physiological terms. If the US economy were a human body, the debt is a tapeworm that has grown larger than the host. It consumes every calorie of energy tax revenue that the body produces. Last year, the interest payments on the debt exceeded the entire defense budget. We are spending more to service our past mistakes than to defend our future. Do you think Trump can sign an executive order to kill a tapeworm? He can't. The only way to kill the tapeworm is to starve it austerity or to kill the host default. And no politician, not even Trump, has the stomach for austerity. So we are left with the illusion of control. You voted for a change in management, but the bankruptcy was already written in the ledger years ago. The Federal Reserve, not the White House, holds the real power. The Fed controls the money printer. The Fed controls the interest rates. The president is just the PR manager for the apocalypse. Trump can tweet all he wants about lowering rates, but if the bond market vigilantes decide that the US is insolvent, rates will go up. The market is a force of nature, like a hurricane. You can scream at a hurricane, you can threaten to sue it, you can build a wall against it, but the hurricane does not care. It will destroy your house anyway. The Trump trap is the belief that a return to 1980s-style deregulation and tax cuts can save a 2025-style debt bubble. It is like trying to cure stage 4 cancer with aspirin and a pep talk. It might make the patient feel better for a few months. The stock market might rally on the sugar rush of business-friendly rhetoric, but the underlying disease, the rot in the currency itself, is terminal. Tax cuts reduce revenue, which increases the deficit, which increases the debt, which increases inflation. Tariffs increase the cost of goods, which increases inflation. Deporting cheap labor increases wages, which increases inflation. Every tool in the populist toolkit is inflationary. You see, the system is designed so that there are no good options left. If Trump tries to save the economy from recession by printing money, he destroys the dollar hyperinflation. If he tries to save the dollar by cutting spending and raising rates, He destroys the economy Great Depression 2.0. It is a pick-your-poison scenario. And history tells us that politicians always pick inflation. They always pick the printing press because it delays the pain. Trump calls himself the king of debt. He loves leverage. He loves low rates. Do you really think he is going to be the one to impose fiscal discipline? No, he is going to double down. He's going to try to inflate his way out of the trap. The hangover you're feeling in November 2025 is just the beginning. It is the creeping realization that the savior has no clothes. You're realizing that the prices are never going back to 2019 levels. That world is gone. It was burned in the fire of the COVID stimulus. Trump cannot bring it back any more than he can bring back his own youth. You're stuck in the new reality of the forever inflation, and the man you elected to stop it is actually the man who is going to accelerate it, not because he is evil, but because the mathematics of the debt spiral leave him no other choice. This is the bitter pill of adulthood. There is no daddy coming to save you. There is no superhero coming to fix the broken timeline. There is only cause and effect. We spent 50 years living beyond our means, and now the bill has arrived. The fact that the waiter bringing the bill is wearing a MAGA hat doesn't change the total at the bottom of the check. You still have to pay, and the currency you're paying with is dying in your pocket. Let us step into the gold-plated elevator of Trump Tower and ride it all the way to the penthouse. The polished brass, the marble floors, the panoramic view of Manhattan, it all screams success. But if you scratch the surface of that gold plating, you find a history built on a very specific type of financial engineering: bankruptcy. Donald Trump famously called himself the king of debt, and he earned that title. His companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection 6 times: the Taj Mahal, the Plaza Hotel, Trump Hotels and Casino Resorts. Again and again, he built massive structures on mountains of debt, and when the payments became impossible, he didn't pay them. He restructured, he negotiated, he stiffed the creditors and kept the brand alive. Now transpose that business model onto the United States of America. Why do you think the system allowed him to return to power? Is it because they love his tweets? No. It is because the United States is essentially a bankrupt corporation that needs a liquidation specialist. The country is insolvent. The liabilities, Social Security, Medicare, interest on debt, exceed the assets' tax revenue by trillions of dollars every year. In the corporate world, this is called zombie status. A zombie company cannot be saved by growth. It can only be saved by restructuring. And who is better at restructuring debt than the man who wrote The Art of the Deal? The Trump trap is the mistaken belief that he is going to fix the dollar. He is not. He's going to execute a Chapter 11 for America. But for a sovereign nation, you don't file paperwork in a court. You default through inflation. Trump has explicitly stated in past interviews that you can never default because you print the money. This is a confession. He understands the mechanism. He knows that the only way to deal with $35 trillion in debt is to devalue the dollar so that the debt becomes meaningless. If you owe $1 trillion and you print $1 quadrillion, the debt effectively disappears. But so does the purchasing power of your savings. Imagine a building that is riddled with termites. The foundation is rotting. The beams are hollow. A responsible engineer would condemn the building. But Trump is not an engineer. He is a developer. He looks at the rotting building and says, "Let's put a new gold facade on it and sell it." He will launch massive infrastructure projects. He will announce freedom cities. He will demand that the Fed lower interest rates to 0 or negative to fuel a new construction boom. He will try to grow the economy out of debt by flooding the system with cheap liquidity. It will look like a boom. The stock market will roar. Crypto will moon. Real estate prices will soar. But this boom will be the death rattle of the middle class. It will be the crack-up boom predicted by Austrian economists. Prices for everything, bread, meat, insurance, rent will explode. Your wages will go up by 5%, but your cost of living will go up by 20%. You will feel richer on paper, but you will be poorer in reality. This is the soft default. The government pays back its bondholders with dollars that are worth 50 cents. They screw the creditors, China, Japan, and your pension fund to save the debtor, the US government. Trump's psychology is perfectly suited for this. He has no moral qualms about walking away from a deal if the math doesn't work. He views debt not as a promise, but as a negotiating tool. I owe you money? Too bad. Take 50 cents on the dollar or get nothing. He will apply this logic to the US Treasury market. He might threaten to withhold payments. He might demand a haircut for bondholders. The mere suggestion of this will cause panic in the global financial markets. The risk-free rate will become the risk-full rate. The dollar's status as the world reserve currency will shatter, not because of BRICS, but because the US president himself treats the full faith and credit of the United States like a distressed casino in Atlantic City. We are watching the installation of a controlled demolition expert. The elites know the current system is unsustainable. They need to transition to a new system, likely a CBDC. But they can't just switch it off. That would cause a revolution. They need a chaotic event to justify the transition. They need a scapegoat. Trump is the wrecking ball. He will smash the old structures of global trade, NATO, WTO, WHO, and the old structures of domestic finance Fed independence. He will create the chaos that makes the public beg for a new solution. When a company goes bankrupt, the shareholders get wiped out. The bondholders take a loss. The executives usually walk away with a golden parachute. In this analogy, you are the shareholder of America Inc. Your citizenship is your share, and it is about to be diluted to zero. Trump will survive. The elite will survive. They own real assets, golf courses, towers, land. But you hold dollars. You hold the liability of the bankrupt entity. The tragedy is that his supporters think he is fighting the system. They don't realize he is the bankruptcy phase of the system. He is the biological response of a dying organism that is thrashing around in a fever. The fever is not the cure. The fever is the symptom of the infection. The infection is debt, and the patient is terminal. Trump is just the doctor who is willing to prescribe morphine printing money instead of chemotherapy austerity, because he wants the patient to like him. He will sell you the illusion of prosperity right up until the moment the lights go out. Remember the Taj Mahal casino? It opened with fireworks, elephants, and Michael Jackson. It was the 8th wonder of the world. A year later, it was in bankruptcy court. America under Trump 2.0 will be the Taj Mahal. A spectacular, noisy, gold-plated disaster that ends with the creditors seizing the furniture, and you are the one working the slot machine in the lobby, waiting for a jackpot that the house can no longer afford to pay. Now let us leave the glitter of Trump Tower and descend into the grey, hushed corridors of the Eccles Building in Washington, D.C. This is the headquarters of the Federal Reserve. There is no gold here, only marble, mahogany, and silence. The men and women who walk these halls do not wear red hats. They wear bespoke suits. They do not shout at rallies. They whisper in closed committees. And they hold a weapon that is far more powerful than the nuclear launch codes, the ability to set the price of money. The central conflict of the next 4 years will not be Republicans versus Democrats. It will be the White House versus the Federal Reserve. It will be the king of debt versus the printers of money. And here is the brutal truth that the campaign slogans ignored. The president is not the CEO of the economy. He is at best a mid-level manager. The real CEO is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and the board of directors is the bond market. Trump believes he can bully the Fed. He has already threatened to fire Jerome Powell. He has demanded that the Fed consult him on interest rate decisions. He wants negative rates. He wants the printer to go brr to fund his wall, his wars, and his tax cuts. But the Fed has a mandate that is independent of the president. Their job is to protect the banking system, not the president's approval rating. If Trump pushes too hard, the deep state, the financial bureaucracy has a kill switch. It is called the bond vigilante revolt. Imagine Trump announces a massive new spending package funded by debt. The bond market looks at this and says, no, traders stop buying US treasuries. The yield on the 10-year note spikes from 4% to 6%, then to 8%. Mortgage rates hit 12%. The housing market freezes instantly. The banks, sitting on trillions of dollars of older low-yield bonds, become technically insolvent. The stock market crashes 30% in a week. This is how the financial elite puts a populist president on a leash. They crash the market. It is a capital strike. They did it to Liz Truss in the UK. She announced tax cuts without funding them. The bond market revolted. The pound collapsed. She was gone in 44 days. Do you think the American bond market is different? It is bigger, yes. But the mathematics are the same. If the president declares war on the math wins. Trump is sitting in the driver's seat of a car that has dual controls. He has a steering wheel, but the passenger, the Fed, has the brake and the gas. Trump can steer toward growth and jobs all he wants. But if the Fed slams on the brakes, raises rates, or refuses to press the gas, refuses to monetize the debt, the car stops. and if Trump tries to grab the wheel or kick the passenger out, the car crashes. The deep state is not just a group of people in a smoky room. It is the structural reality of the global financial system. The US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. It relies on trust. If Trump politicizes the Fed, he turns it into his personal piggy bank that trust evaporates. Foreign nations, China, Saudi Arabia, Japan, will dump their dollar holdings. The dollar will collapse not because of a conspiracy, but because of a loss of faith. The technocrats at the Fed know this. They view themselves as the guardians of the temple. They view Trump as a barbarian at the gate. They will sabotage his agenda not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. We will see a war of attrition. Trump will tweet. Powell will raise an eyebrow and keep rates high to fight inflation. The economy will suffocate. Trump will blame the Fed. The Fed will blame fiscal irresponsibility. And you will be the collateral damage in this power struggle. Your 401,000 will be the battlefield. Your job will be the casualty. There is another layer to this trap. The bureaucracy, the administrative state. Trump promised to drain the swamp. He promised to fire tens of thousands of bureaucrats. Schedule F. It sounds great on a bumper sticker. But have you ever tried to fire a government employee? It is like trying to remove a tumor that has wrapped itself around the spinal cord. The bureaucracy will fight back with the ultimate weapon, inertia. They will slow roll every order. They will lose paperwork. They will leak damaging stories to the press. They will paralyze the executive branch from the inside. Trump will find himself in a Kafkaesque nightmare. He will issue an order to build a border wall, and it will get stuck in an environmental review for 3 years. He will issue an order to drill for oil, and it will get tied up in court by NGOs funded by the very elites he claims to fight. He will be Gulliver tied down by a million tiny threads of red tape. He will rage, he will scream, but the giant will not move. The physiological metaphor here is paralysis. The body, the government, is rejecting the brain, the president. The nervous system is blocking the signals. The muscles refuse to contract. The president can think move arm, but the arm hangs limp. This creates a sense of chaotic impotence. The public sees a leader who talks tough, but achieves nothing. The disillusionment sets in. He promised to fix it, but nothing changed. This is exactly what the establishment wants. They want to prove that populism doesn't work. They want to prove that outsiders cannot run the machine. They want to break the spirit of the resistance. By letting Trump win, but tying his hands, they turn him into a lame duck from day one. They neutralize him without making him a martyr. They let him fail on his own terms. And while this political theatre plays out on cable news, the real looting continues. The military-industrial complex keeps getting its contracts. The pharmaceutical companies keep getting their immunity. The banks keep getting their bailouts. The swamp doesn't get drained. It gets deeper. It just has a new, noisy alligator swimming on the surface to distract you from the leeches at the bottom. The Trump trap is the belief that one man can overcome a century of entrenched power structures. It is the great man theory of history colliding with the systemic complexity reality. The system is designed to survive a Trump. It is designed to absorb the shock and keep moving. You're betting on the man. The smart money is betting on the system. And the house always wins. We have arrived at the final, darkest layer of the trap. This is the part that touches on conspiracy. But remember, a conspiracy is just 2 or more people planning something in secret. And in politics, planning is everything. Ask yourself a dangerous question. Why did the system, which fought Donald Trump with every fibre of its being for 8 years, impeachments, indictments, media blackouts suddenly seem to fold in 2024? Why did the resistance feel weaker? Why did the Biden administration seem to sleepwalk into defeat? Here is the terrifying hypothesis. They wanted him to win. Not because they like him, but because they needed him. They looked at the economic data. They saw the $35 trillion debt wall. They saw the coming recession. They saw the inevitable collapse of the bond market in 2026. And they realized something crucial. Whoever is sitting in the Oval Office when the music stops will be blamed for the silence. If a Democrat is in power when the Great Depression 2.0 hits, the Democratic Party is destroyed for a generation. Liberalism is discredited. The ideology of big government dies. But if Trump is in power, that is a different story. If the crash happens on Trump's watch, they can blame MAGA economics. They can blame populism. They can blame isolationism. They can say, look, we told you he was dangerous. We told you he would crash the economy. You didn't listen, and now you are poor. Trump becomes the perfect scapegoat. He becomes the Herbert Hoover of the 21st century. The narrative writes itself. The economy was recovering under Biden, and then Trump came in with his tariffs and his chaos and broke it. This is the glass cliff. It is a corporate term for when a company's about to fail, so they hire a female or minority CEO to take the fall. They have put Trump on the glass cliff. They handed him a grenade with the pin already pulled and said, "Here, you fix it." When it explodes in his hand, they will point fingers and say, "See, he is incompetent." It is the ultimate political judo move. You use your opponent's momentum to destroy him. By allowing Trump to win, the establishment achieves two goals. First, they absolve themselves of responsibility for the 50 years of monetary mismanagement that actually caused the crisis. The Fed gets off scot-free. Congress gets off scot-free. It's all Trump's fault. Second, they demoralize the populist movement forever. When Trump fails to save the economy because the economy is unsavable, the voters will give up. They will say, "We tried the outsider, and it got worse. Maybe we should go back to the experts." It prepares the ground for the total technocratic takeover in 2028. The tragedy of the Trump voter is that they are cheering for their own entrapment. They are rushing into the burning building thinking they are the firemen, not realizing the roof is rigged to collapse on their heads. You voted for vengeance. You're going to get a verdict, and the verdict will be that your hero failed you. So what happens next? The timeline is predictable. Trump enters office. He tries to cut taxes. Deficits explode. Inflation spikes. The Fed raises rates. The market crashes. Trump tries to fire Powell. Chaos ensues. The dollar tanks. Social unrest explodes. And then, in the middle of the smoking ruins, the establishment steps forward with their prepackaged solution. "We need stability," they will say. "We need a digital dollar to save the system. We need universal basic income to stop the riots. We need global coordination to fix the supply chains." They will offer you the cage and you will walk into it willingly because you will be hungry and scared. The failure of Trump will be used as the justification for the implementation of the very globalist agenda he swore to fight. It is the Hegelian dialectic. Problem economic collapse, reaction panic and blame Trump, solution technocratic tyranny. You need to understand that the cavalry is not coming. Trump is not the cavalry, he is the distraction. While you're watching the political wrestling match, the financial planners are locking the exits. You cannot vote your way out of a debt crisis. You cannot rally your way out of a currency collapse. The mathematics of the situation are indifferent to your political loyalty. The only person who can save you is you. You need to declare personal independence. Independence from the dollar. Independence from the banking system. Independence from the political hopium. Stop waiting for a leader to fix your life. Build your own lifeboat. Buy assets that politicians cannot print. Learn skills that the algorithm cannot replicate. Build a community that relies on trust, not government handouts. The next 4 years will be the most turbulent in American history. We will see the death of the old order, but do not mistake the death throes of the system for the birth of freedom. It is a controlled demolition. And if you're standing too close to the building, if you're emotionally and financially invested in the political illusion, you will be crushed by the falling debris. Step back, look at the big picture, see the trap, and don't walk into it. The era of politics is over. The era of survival has begun.